Hello and welcome back to my channel. I'm Jenny. Today's video is going to be a review of the Winky Lux coffee collection. The pieces in this collection that I got was the Winky Lux coffee palette. This is what the palette looks like. The coffee bronzer. I have mine in the shade Latte. And one of the lipsticks in the shade Leche. I'm like 87.5% sure that this is part of the collection. There were two others that had coffee names, so I think that this is part of the collection. But don't quote me on that because it might not be. But it was sold at the same time as this, so I'm assuming that it is. I'm going to do a demo and a review and swatches of these products, so let's go ahead and start the demo. So my eyes are already primed, and to set the primer I'm going to go into the shade Affiago, I think is how you pronounce that, and just set the primer. Going into the shade Cappuccino, I'm just going to put this in the outer V and up into the crease. To the shade Americano, I'm going to do the exact same thing and focus it more on the lower crease. I'm not going to bring it up as far as I did Cappuccino. Taking a smaller blending brush, I'm going to take the shade Macchiato and put that right into the crease and outer V as well, but focusing it more on the very outer corner just to darken that area up. I'm going to try to use all of the shades if I can, so I'm going to take the shade Double Shot on a flat top brush and kind of just stamp it onto the very outer corner to add more depth and a little bit of a sheen. So now I'm going to go in with the shimmers, and I laid down the NYX glitter glue to kind of use that as a primer. Going into the shade Frappe with a flat kind of shading brush, I'm going to pat that on top of the glitter glue. Taking a little bit of Light and Sweet, I'm going to just kind of put a little bit on top of that. Taking that little blender brush, I'm going to go into the black shade, which is called Espresso. Just a teeny tiny bit of that just to add to the very outer corner for depth. So I went ahead and did some eyeliner and some mascara, and so now I'm going to go to the bottom lash line. And to start the bottom lash line, I'm going to go into the shade Cappuccino and put that all over the lower lash. Going into the shade Americano, I'm going to do the same thing, but instead of going all the way in, I'm going to stop about right in the center of my eye. Taking a flat shader brush, I'm going to go into the shade Macchiato and focus this on the outer half of the lower lash. Going into Espresso, I'm going to do the same thing, just right on the very edge. So I went ahead and added lower lash mascara and a little bit of contour, so now I'm going to go into the coffee bronzer in the shade Latte, and I am just going to bronze with it. There's a cat. Hello! Hi, Harry! So now that I have finished the rest of the face, I'm going to go in with the lipstick, and it is the Creamy Dreamies lipstick in the shade Leche. I'm just going to apply that now. I don't really know that it goes with this look, but it's part of the collection, so I went ahead and put it on. So this is the final look. Let's go ahead and start the review. So to start this review, I'm going to just kind of do an overview of this collection. I had never tried anything from Winky Lux before, and so this is all first time Winky Lux for me. So I didn't really know what to expect, but it had the word coffee in it, and I am a coffee connoisseur, and I have been since I was like 4 years old, thanks to my grandma. This collection is kind of like the Too Faced collections, where Too Faced smells like chocolate. This collection smells like coffee, and that was kind of their selling point, was that it was coffee scented makeup. These items were purchased from the Winky Lux website. The bronzer and the eyeshadow palette are available on Ulta now. The lipsticks are not. The Creamy Dreamy formula is not on the Ulta website. I'd also like to add that these products are cruelty-free, as what the whole brand is cruelty-free. So if that was kind of a worry of yours, just know that they are cruelty-free. To start, I'm going to start with the lipstick, actually. I really like this shade. I think it's nice. I think it's very pretty. It's very fall, in my opinion. The packaging is cute. It's like a little pill, kind of. It's very cute, and it's nice to just like pop in your purse or your pocket or something like that, but it's not very practical to store because it obviously doesn't like stand up by itself or anything, but that's okay. It's not like a deal breaker or anything. And I like the shape of the lipstick bullet because it has that like rounded tip instead of the pointed one, so it really like hugs the lip line. This shade in particular, I obviously haven't tried any of the other shades, but this shade I have to apply lightly, and that's what I did today. If I like put full force into it like I do with normal lipsticks, this is extremely pigmented and it's a lot deeper than this, and I didn't want it to be that deep. I do have to use a light hand when I apply this, usually, because I'm usually not going for such a bold look, but the formula is nice and it lasts quite a while. It is a little bit drying, which isn't my favorite. It's kind of drying my mouth. Like, you know, when your lips are dry, your whole mouth feels dry. It's just not a good feeling. If a dry formula doesn't bother you, then this won't bother you at all. And there are a handful of other shades. I'm not 100% sure that this is actually part of the coffee collection, but since it's Winky Lux, I'll go ahead and throw it in here anyway. So I don't hate this, but it's not my favorite formula, and the color is very, very pretty. And it does last a long time. These lipsticks retail for $14, which I think is a little bit steep, but it's not a terrible price. Next, I'm going to talk about the bronzer, and it is the coffee bronzer, and I have mine in the shade Latte. There are 2 shades of bronzer in this collection. There's Latte, which is the lighter one, which is what I have, and then there's Mocha, and it is a deeper shade. I forgot to mention the scent of the lipstick. It kind of reminds me of like a MAC lipstick, where it smells basically just like lipstick with like a hint of sweetness to it. It's not anything overpowering, and it's nothing special. It doesn't have a coffee scent or anything like that. Bronzer and the palette are interesting the way the scent works, because if you stick your nose in it, it smells different than when you're applying it to your face. It's very weird. It's like very... like, this doesn't smell like coffee when you stick your nose in it. Now, I'm gonna feel bad talking about how the scent is, because my boyfriend actually bought me all of these things in the collection. So this review is brought to you by Ryan, so thank you, Ryan. But it smells like campfire, which I don't mind. I like the smell of campfire. A hint of coffee and the tiniest bit of cigarette butts, which is not good. But when you're applying it to your face, it doesn't smell like that. It's not as strong, and it's not nearly as strange. It does smell more like coffee, but it's a very artificial coffee smell. If you're wanting that freshly brewed pot of coffee smell that's very just like, ah, beautiful, this is not it. It's just very artificial. Mostly campfire, which doesn't bother me. I love the smell of a good bonfire, good campfire, but this just doesn't smell like coffee. The product itself is beautiful, though. I love the way it applies. It's not patchy. It lasts a long time on the face, and I think it has a good tone. It's not too warm, and it's not too like neutral or anything. It's right there in the middle, and I think it looks really, really nice. I like the way it applies. It's got a nice size mirror in it. The packaging is pretty. It does get fingerprints on it easily, which that doesn't bother me. But I think the only issue really is the scent, that it doesn't really smell like coffee, but the product itself is really, really nice. And these bronzers retail for $20, which once again I think is a little bit steep, but it's not terrible. It's really not that bad. I'll go ahead and show you a swatch of it real quick. Can't really see it, which is good. You don't want like a super like poop stripe on your face or anything like that, but I have really been enjoying it. And the one that most people are probably the most curious about is the coffee palette. The packaging is beautiful. I love the florals with the little coffee cups. I think that's so cute. But the palette itself is a little janky. Like, the top of the palette doesn't really line up with the bottom of the palette, and so it makes it a little tough to even get it open without using fingernails. It doesn't have a mirror, and then the shadows themselves, like, around the palette, like the holes aren't cut properly to fit the shadows. It's like it was rushed, which, I mean, I know that it sold out the first time. This was like the second time it came back in stock is when I got it, and it's like they rushed to get the palettes done so that they can get the shadows in, which it's not a deal breaker. It doesn't affect the shadows, but it just affects the way the palette looks to me. It looks a little cheap. And this palette's $25, so it's not exactly cheap, especially for 9 shadows. So moving on to the scent of this one. This smells very different from the bronzer, surprisingly. It smells a little more coffee-like, but it's still not the, you know, the fresh brewed pot of coffee. It's very artificial coffee, which I guess is to be expected since it's not made with real coffee. It's not bad. It does smell better going onto the face though. And the scent of these does not linger on your face throughout the day either. So it's just more of like the novelty of using the coffee scented products. In this palette you get 3 actual mattes, and it is these right here. This is technically a matte, but it has like sparkles in it, but they don't show up on the face, so like what's the point in putting sparkles in it? You get 2 that are like satiny shimmers. Kind of, like they're not as poppy as these 2 shimmers, but they are shimmery, and then this one's more of like a satin kind of finish. Since this is a coffee palette, it is very neutral, and it is more neutral cool instead of like warm, which is very refreshing in a sea of warm eyeshadow palettes, right? My only true issue with this is this gray down here. It's the coolest in the entire palette. It starts to look a little weird when I put it with these like more neutrally kind of mattes. It just starts to look very funny. So I feel like the gray sticks out in this palette and it kind of doesn't belong, where the rest of them are nice and they all work well together and they look nice together, but the gray just really sticks out, and I personally struggle trying to get it to look decent. I just don't like the gray in this palette. The gray itself is a nice shade, but it doesn't work well with these other colors. The quality of the shadows it's very nice. It's a very nice palette, and the shadows all are very nice. I do like to use a glitter glue with these shimmers just because these shimmers aren't like my Makeup Geek shimmers. They don't last nearly as long as like my Makeup Geek shimmers or anything like that, which are really good quality. Not that these are bad quality, of course, but they just need a little bit of help. So I do use a glitter glue with these shimmers in order to keep them there all day long. But the mattes stay put all day. They look great. They blend well. I don't have any complaints of the quality of the shadows. I think though the shadows themselves are great. So my only real issue is the packaging, where it like looks a little wonky, and then the scent isn't very coffee-like. And to me, I feel like they should have focused more on the coffee scent, since that was their selling point, because you don't need this palette, honestly, because this palette is so neutral. Most people already have these shades in their collection anyway, so people are really buying this for the novelty of the coffee scent and the coffee like branding of it. For it to not really smell like coffee and more like chocolate or like campfires and stuff, I think they really missed the mark as far as that goes. Is this worth $25? Probably. Yeah, I would say it is, because the shadows themselves are really nice quality. I think they just need to work on the packaging, and they definitely need to work on the scent. So now I'm going to go ahead and swatch this palette for you. So the shade names are on the back of the palette, so I do think that that is nice that they do have shade names that you can go off of if you're following a tutorial or something like that. So here are the swatches of the palette, but here we have Affogato, I think is how you pronounce that. It's the matte kind of cream shade. We have Light and Sweet, which is that really nice light shimmer. Cappuccino, Macchiato, which isn't a great swatcher, but it does apply really nice. Frappe, it has a gorgeous shine to it. Americano, Double Shot, Cold Brew, which is the silver that looks weird to me anyway. And then espresso, my bad, espresso, is the black with the shimmer. Now when you swatch it and then like blow on it, all the shimmer disappears. So the shimmer is not, it's pointless, basically. But here is the eyeshadow palette swatched. So overall, I think the collection is a very nice collection, and I think it's fun. They're very nice. I think the pricing is a tiny bit steep. I do think that the price is worth it if you think that the colors are going to be good for you. You don't have very many neutrals. You're just starting out. You want to try something new. I do think they're good, but as far as for the coffee scent part of it, I wouldn't get it for the coffee scent because it doesn't smell like coffee to me, which is really, really disappointing. I'm super disappointed about the scent of it. So that's all I have for you today. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, please give me a thumbs up, and if you would like to subscribe, please feel free, and I'll see you next time. Bye, guys.